And they're saying that, well, everybody is going to have some sort of, layer of identity protection in a world of AI, in a world of quantum supremacy and quantum computing, that, you're going to have more layers, basically the same way you go and give the police, your identification and your fingerprinting and your eye scan. You would have to do that as a KYC so people can know their customers, so you would know that you're talking to a real person. Because the AIs are getting so increasingly good, right, that they are able to fool a large percentage of the population today. They're getting so good that they can utilize your voice and they can use it for a credit card scam today, right? Like, they're getting so good that you can feed these AIs and they can have a whole conversation with somebody on the phone in a short term, and they may not even know at all. Now it's getting to the point they can clone your likeness, take your voice, and now they're able to utilize it. They've done studies where they show that people didn't even realize that they were talking to an AI, right, at first. And some people didn't realize it at all. And as this technology hits in the next 10 years, in the next 20 years, it's going to be bad. So all I'm trying to do is give you some awareness. This is free game to just listen, right? So, yeah, the authentication tools won't be as useful, especially if we get to a quantum computing world. And then all of the DNA data that they're getting from the 23andMe, from the Ancestry, right? They're using that to create customizable data. You're going to see a lot of cures come out so-calledly. You're going to see a lot of things that can help with, slowing down the process of aging, because in a society to where they're not growing more babies, how do you keep that population, or how do you continue to get money from that population? You got to keep them alive. How do you keep them alive? You got to start curing some of these diseases that they have. You have to slow down that process of aging. So they're focused on trying to create immortality right now. They're trying to be real vampires, and they're doing everything that they can to live forever because they don't see their legacy continuing because of, this baby bust that they call it, when people are not having as many babies. And a lot of people are not having it, not just because of a biological imperative, but more so a psychological, where they're fearful of the future. So therefore, they don't want to have a child, and definitely don't want to have like 9 of them. You know what I'm saying? The most you getting out of the new generation is 1. Most you getting out of them is like 1 or 2. You know what I'm saying? They ain't women today is like, babies where? That's not what I was for. I watched this show. Oh man, I watched this show. I forget what it's called, but it's about the future of parenting and them giving the opportunity. In order for a woman to not have a baby in her body, they created like these little eggs. So she can now have the baby in this artificial womb, right? The show is terrible. It's scary, right? So it's shaped like an egg, right? You can kind of customize the baby and feed it what you want it to feed and have the baby have a whole playing list. And it was crazy because they was really talking about the evolution of the woman, of her not having a baby, and listing out all of these talking points, right? And then they show how the men were becoming a lot of times more attached to the baby than the women, because the women couldn't create this mother instinct connection, right? Now, this is not some crazy sci-fi movie. This is a close future that they've already started implementing already. They already started implementing. What you gonna think they're gonna be doing with all this DNA data? They want to get it from celebrities. They want to get it from smart people. Because what if I can hit them with the NBA gene, hit them with the NFL gene, hit them with the philosopher gene? Now, what kind of baby you want? You want a thinker? Man, we got you. You want a little artist baby? You want a little roundabout? That might cost you a little more. You know what I'm saying? You want a good looking, little ugly babies? That's the cheapest you can get. You want an ugly baby, little to no talents? Man, we got you. You get a payment plan on that one. Don't even worry about it. You know what I'm saying? Yeah, somebody's the little designer babies. Now that's gonna be different. As shocking as the future feels, in a world where, in a world where they can just throw propaganda at things and make people believe it, and these talking points become, a reality that people get behind, right? I can already see so many people being activists saying that, no, you're right. it's too dangerous for women to have babies. I can see the next generation saying that I would rather a career than a baby, and that women have always had to carry the babies, and this is not fair. I can just see it. I can see it. Then they're going to use the smallest percentage first to validate the larger thing. Well, some women can't have babies. Then they're going to say, well, black women, it's so dangerous when they do have babies because of racist hospitals. So instead of goddamn going and creating a better healthcare system, right, we're going to say, let's go ahead and get rid of pregnancy, natural pregnancy altogether, and have GMO babies. Man, now listen, the way that propaganda spreads and the way that information spreads is crazy. You know what I'm saying? It is crazy. Let the celebrities start doing it, right? And let it trickle down and they become a woman's rights issue. You know what I'm saying? Her body, her choice, and boom, artificial wombs for everybody. Because a lot of society already don't believe in the nuclear family. So I don't see how it's sustainable if the conservative approach of keeping those values and what's considered to be a nuclear family, you know, in continuation, it's going to be easy for them to implement other different things. So I'm only telling you all this now because you got to really think about the future, not just the future of what they create. Think about the future of what you want to create. And this is probably the best part of this talk right here. A lot of times we do get boggled down on the viewpoint, right? That we think that, you know, the 1% is having, the rulers, or the 5%, I should say, is having, or no, let me say that, I would say the 10%. The 10% is having, instead of saying that, okay, what do I want for the future? How do I want to control it? When you see these young geniuses that they say graduated from school at like 13, 15, where do they disappear to? They disappear to build somebody else's ideas, right? Oftentimes, they're not coming from these ultra-rich families. They're coming even from middle class or poor. So therefore, once they come from these families, right, then they taking these scholarships, they taking these grants, and they start working for somebody's vision of the future. We need somebody that intelligent for this vision that's this broad, right? Companies that have funds, they only like to fund ideas that's going to change the world. And then they get the brain intelligence and the intelligentsia of the world to work for them. Today, Elon Musk has mostly all of the top engineers when it comes to working on brain interface. So if you wanted to create a device as well, it'd be very hard pressed for you to find somebody because they're getting offered a job $200,000-$300,000, right? This is how you control the intelligence and the genius of the world with money, because nobody else can afford to offer them more than what you do. So even when you want to create these tech startups and you really have these ideas, who's going to build it for you? The person that comes up with the vision is not often the person that builds it. But without the visionary having the funds, then there's no connection to bring it into reality. So we may see other cultures create things, not because they're smarter than these people over here. It's just because of the way that the world operates. They have more money to fund it and push it out there. So until the funding changes, right, and the ability to grant the most brilliant minds, the most intelligent minds of the culture, of course, they're going to they're going to want to have access to money. Nobody wants to be a genius and poor at the same time when they can help their family and they can live this particular higher life. They're not going to want that at all. So they say, no, okay, I'll go work for these companies so that I can buy my mom a house, so that I can afford to get my wife what she wants and get my kids and allow them to go to whatever school they want to. So the brain trust of the world is swallowed up by capitalism. Right? So they control the greatest thinkers. So now when they have an idea, they take that brain power and they say, hey, now use your intelligence to solve the problems we need help with. So this is how the future is controlled, by the visionaries who have the funds. Right? All they do is pay for it. Now, the thing that we have is no matter what you create, somebody has to influence people in order to use it. So what we have is the greatest influence over society. And I'm going to start using the word society more than I use culture. Right? Because I think culture is this word that we often use to where we're trying to separate this aspect, right, of our enrichment and our values, right? But we live in a blended society. We live in a super integrated society, and not just from a environmental, physical level, but from a mental and a psychological level. You'll be hard pressed to say that this person's consciousness is directly from the culture and that it's not the same as somebody from a different culture. No, go look at TikTok. These little children, these new younger children that come from the suburbs sound just like somebody that grew up in the hood nowadays. Same vocab. And it's not fake to them because this is how they learn. They learn from the internet. Right? So they're like an AI model that's being trained on all the languages of the world instead of the languages of your environment. So that's society training them from a global societal perspective. It used to be just hip hop was the one that was embedding the languages, right, that people would listen to. Now, hip hop ain't the only influencer in the game. Now these children are listening to other children and getting it from a global. So they like, how you gonna tell me I can't use that word to say this or do this? Like, you know, they grew up as little children and people hearing it on TikTok and they say it's so fluent and so smooth. So you have to understand that the world has been globally integrated, right? And this integration has changed the landscape of society. So while we say the culture, it's really not real because the culture is not some incubation to where it is only influenced by us. The culture is not even funded or controlled by us. So save the culture. What culture? No, we have to speak in terms of society now. Because the same issues that's happening with them white folks, them poor white folks, happening to them poor black folks. Them same issues that they have with the government, you having. Them same demoralization, emasculation, family dynamic change is happening through all. It's happening everywhere, whether you realize it or not. We just paying attention to our own problems. The same, you know, the spiritual dryness, the disconnection from God, that's happening with everybody. This demon time that people is on, go look at Doja Cat, go look at Lil Uzi, right? They on demon time, full heavy. Them is who you think is at their concerts? So this is not an isolated cultural phenomenon. This is a societal phenomenon. And when you start thinking in broader societal terms, not only does it make you more empathetic, you actually start to speak on more national and global interest. And with that, you get more support, you get allies, you get more funding. Because now you're speaking on things that are directly good for what you consider your culture, but it's also good for the world. And nobody stands in your way when you're doing something good for the world. So from a strategic perspective, you have to think from a societal term. How do you take these small businesses, and especially when you look in categories where the smaller businesses happen to be made up of, yes, black men and black women, in these particular categories, but you're talking about small businesses in the sense that you want to help small businesses increase the aesthetics, increase their business, increase the back end so they can increase sales, create more jobs. That's going to directly affect your interests. So you got local interests, you have national interests, and you have global interests. So we have to think because the things that happen at a national level affect us at a local level. So we talk AI. AI is not some local interest. That affects national interests. That affects global interests. The mental health issues, right, that we have, that affects national interests. The lack of financial literacy, national. It's the remoralization of society because they've been demoralized, right, through media. That's a national problem. That's a national problem. Then, of course, AI taking jobs. First of all, it's true. AI will take a lot. But it's slower than you think is going to happen, but it's faster than you think is going to happen. So when we talk about AI taking jobs, why is that the only narrative? You have to be careful. And this is something, game, I'm going to give you. Be careful of narrative control. Anytime you hear a slogan used over and 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 over, right? It's a self-fulfilling prophecy. It's a self-fulfilling prophecy. What does that mean? This means that it's embedded and programmed into your mind. It doesn't have to happen, but because you believe it happened, your actions, emotions, feelings will lead up to the eventuality of this occurring. Instead of saying that all y'all did was give us information, right? So now I know the future I want to create, because how can you have a head start on the issue and then it still happens? That's like if you eating too much of some kind of food in your diet, and the doctor said, well, listen, man, if you eat this another, 1,000 times, then you're going to get cancer. So are you going to eat it another 1,000 times and get cancer and show it to the doctor like I'm sick? Or did he just ward off an issue because now you've been diagnosed with the problem and you've been given this data, so now you can make better decisions? So for me, the reason I don't get afraid of the future is because if you're telling me something's going to happen in the future, you just pre-warned me on how to move so that it doesn't become my future. Versus you're not telling me a sure thing, because no future is sure. Because there are forces that want to control the future based on each agenda of different forces. So we all have what we want for the future, but most poor people have what they're programmed for the future because they can't think that far out because they're in survival mode. And survival makes you think of immediate concerns. So now you're stuck with this view. You're looking from here, but when you're supposed to think of the future, you're supposed to think from here. Like you're thinking from a global, like where's the world going to be? Right? And then, okay, well, why do you have to be one of those people that are hit with the issues of the future? Only the unprepared should be like that. So instead of reacting to the day that it happens, you're prepared years in advance so that it doesn't happen to you. So the question becomes okay, they say AI is going to take the job. Well, it can't take everybody's job. That's not a possible future. So you're telling me nobody's working? Wait a minute. Well, where's the money going to go? There's money in the world. Money has to flow somewhere. Money is like a river. It has to flow. Sometimes we create new pathways for that money to flow. Right? So what will people be spending their money on? Why? I remember years ago, I got it written in my notes. And this is like 2016, 2017. I started talking about drone delivery because I was sitting down in the park and I just started thinking about the future and what would have to happen if so-and-so happened. I say drones here. I start looking at food delivery services. And I just start looking at the convenience factor that people want what the rich have. People don't just want what the rich have when it comes to, the fashion. They want the lifestyle. So the lifestyle of the rich is being sold to the average as the new business model for society. Right? So timeshares, Airbnb, right? Private drivers, Uber, right? Private chefs, Uber Eats, right? So now we're getting the services that was only for the rich, right? You're going to have nowadays you can get you a medical person come to your home. You can have somebody, or you can have a teledoctor right there. That was only, you watch the movies back in the day, that was only for the rich. So one of my prime theses is that everything that was for the rich as a luxury is given to the poor. So what is going to be the new luxuries of the rich? In-person experiences that money can't buy, right? That in-person experience becomes even more expensive because you're going to be able to get a front row seat at an NBA game, but virtually. They already working and selling those rights to companies to do that. So now you've never had that perspective of sitting at a front row, but now you can pay for it. Now you get the perspective of the wealthy. So where does money go flow? It's going to flow in the infrastructure of the new experience. It's going to flow in the infrastructure because every time there's a new invention or a new shift, there's new millionaires. There's a new class of billionaires that come out. When the tech shift came out, right, there became the new tech billionaires. Now you got the Elon wars going on. And it's interesting with the Elon wars that's going on because now he's fighting other forces like the ADL. They are in an argument right now. Now he's going against, what's his name? Mark Zuckerberg. So new forces always contend with each other over the future. So you have to think about what are the new future forces that are coming about. The phone was one of the biggest future forces that was given to us. And if you started to really just sit down and think like, well, now that billions of people have access to the internet and it creates this social network, what are some of the things that's going to come out from it? Some people was thinking early on and they said, okay, well, damn, I need to start buying the same way the domain age came with the internet. Let me start getting this Instagram handle, Red Instagram, Money Instagram. They start buying up these And they was able to sell them for millions later on because they understand the future force that was happening. They took that and they started to think and they say, okay, well, based on history, these are the way things get rolled out, right? So same thing that happened on blockchain. People start buying up all of the blockchain domains. Same thing that happened in the domain space, but because it was a new age, people start buying up, instead of .com, they start buying up .ai. And people are making millions and tens of thousands selling domain names. So while some people are worried about the future, people study the past to understand anytime there's a new force and a new shift, there's money to be made. The movie industry understood that, man, we're going to start scanning your digital likeness, right? So that we don't have to utilize you no more, because if we have AI, we can utilize your image in perpetuity. So we're going to start putting that in a contract, right? They start buying up rappers' catalogs because they understand that, man, in the future, if we give everybody access to these catalogs to go mix and make their own music, right, we can make more money off the world having access and us taking our percentage and we owning the catalog. But if you're not thinking about the future force and what things will be, you're thinking about the value of it today versus the value of it 10 years from now. So holding on to it is smart. But everybody's not thinking like that. So the artists don't have to be doomed, right? Because there's so many ways, like music is forever. The question is what is the new way to utilize your voice as an instrument? I might be able to license out my voice, but I might put certain things on there. Certain things you can't say with my voice. Can't say no sucker stuff, no weird stuff with my voice. But let's say I license out my voice for it to narrate your books. Right? It licenses out my voice, my IP and things of that nature for whatever it's going to do. So now I get to make money off your creative utility of my IP. And I just take my percentage. There's people that be wanting to put my voice in songs. So that's the same thing. It's your digital rights. It's your copyrights. So the landscape is going to be changing. So you have to think ahead. And if you set up your business, right, and or you create the business for change, then you make the money. So listen, people need to learn about AI. This is not like something that you should breeze by. You should sit down with your family, sit in the living room and learn about these future forces. So guess what I'm going to do? I'm going to teach about the future forces so that people can sit there instead of, I just ask for some of your Netflix time. I might ask for some of that budget that you go, because people don't like paying for knowledge, but we pay for college. And that put the Black community in more debt than anything. People don't like paying for knowledge, but you pay for liquor. So I don't really care about the whole knowledge should be free conversation. If that's the case, go argue about liquor should be free. Argue about the things that's not good for you should be free, not the things that are good for you. I don't believe in that conversation. I think that's a conversation for people who don't value things. The things that, go asking you get into this club for free. You won't do that because you don't feel entitled, right, to liabilities. You got to pay for that experience because they got something you want and you value that. You will pay a 300% markup. No, like 1,000% markup for a bottle in a club, but knowledge should be free. Because it's not about the knowledge, it's about the time and the product. It's a product that you're paying for. Forget the knowledge just having to be part of the product. It's a product. So we live in a space where people have to be able to make money, create bills, create the media that is going to allow you to learn it in a certain capacity. Because if a person ain't got no budget, man, they can't even afford the camera to shoot it in quality HD and 4K. They can't afford an editor to put it together. They can't afford the subscription of wherever they're going to have this host site on. They can't afford the people that needs to work to make sure that they following up on emails and making sure you're getting everything readily available. They can't afford the time it takes to research because they got to go work a regular job. So you don't think about the back end of it. But the reality of it is that every shift creates new jobs and new opportunities. Sometimes the opportunities have to be created by you. The technology doesn't create the jobs. The people that think create the jobs based on the opportunity and these new tools that are in now. And they start looking at the landscape. So this is why one of the main things I've been teaching for the last 5 years is creative thinking. And people don't listen. I'm like, yo, the most important thing is I put it in my book. Matter of fact, I wrote it in my book. I said that it's creative thinkers. because I was able to sit back and look at the landscape. I try to give you the thoughts that are ahead of time so you can absorb them and operate based on that capacity. But you got to lock in.